Next, if we intend to actually upload our images, we actually need somewhere to upload them. And for the sake of this example, we're just going to go ahead and create a basic server, a Node server to allow us to upload it. So next to the mobile directory, which is where our React Native project is, I'm going to go ahead and create a new directory called server. I'll cd into the server, and then I'll say npm init, and then I'll just go ahead with all of the defaults. Okay, and then I can go ahead and say touch index.js. So now inside of our project, we've got a package.json and an index.js. To this project, I'm going to add a few dependencies. So I'll say yarn add, can use npm install as well. I'll add express, I'll add body parser, and then I'll add multer to this project. So now going over to the actual editor, I can go ahead and open up our server project. And then opening up the index.js, we can go ahead and actually configure our server. So I'm going to say const express is equal to require express. We'll also pull in multer, and that's going to be requiring multer. And then finally we'll pull in body parser, and that's going to require body parser. We can then go ahead and create our app, which will just be express. And we can say app.use the middleware body parser.json. Okay, now we need to actually configure our storage for multer, and multer is just going to save things to disk. It's not a great way to do this, but for the sake of this example, it'll work fine. Typically, you'd want to store it somewhere like Amazon S3 or similar, not directly on your server. So to create our storage information, we'll set up multer.disk storage. That's going to take a request, a file, and a callback. And what we're going to do is say callback. We're going to pass null as an error. We'll then say that the destination is going to be images, the images directory. Next, we'll actually want to set up the file name. Once again, we'll set the request, the file, and the callback. We'll say callback is null, or the first argument to callback is null. And then we can go ahead and start configuring this. Basically what we're going to have is a file.fieldName. And then we're going to do an underscore date.now. And then we'll also tack on the file.originalName. Not necessarily a great naming scheme, but it will work for the sake of this example that we're working on. So with that done, we can then go ahead and configure the multer middleware. So we can say upload is equal to multer, and then we'll pass the storage, the actual storage variable we just set up. Okay, with that all done, we can then go ahead and set up our routes. I'm just going to set up a basic route for the home URL. So we can set up request res. We'll set res.status equal to 200, just saying, okay, success. And then we can say, you can post to /API/upload, just so anyone using this API knows that. Okay, so next let's actually set up that API upload. So we're going to say app.post, and this is just Express kind of the way you would set up an Express app. So we're going to set up /API/upload. And then here we're going to say upload.array, and then we're going to look for the photo field on the body of the message that's going to be posted to this endpoint. And basically this upload.array is multer syntax, and we can say how many images maximum are allowed. We'll set that max to 3 at a time. Then finally we'll pass a callback, which is going to have a request and a response. Just so we can kind of see what's going on, I'm going to log the file, and multer is going to put that on request.file, or rather it's request.file since this is an array. And then we'll also log the body of the message. We can pass anything else other than photo on the form data. We'll go ahead and show up in request.body. Finally, we'll go ahead and say res.status 200, and then we'll just pass some JSON back with a message of success. Last thing we want to do here for our basic server is app.listen on port 3000. Pass a callback for once the app starts, and we can say app running on http // localhost port 3000. Okay, so we'll go back to our server or our terminal, and we can say node index.js. It'll go ahead and log that message. We can open this up. And then if we look here, you can say we can post to API upload. So we know relatively confidently our server's set up. And since we know the GET request is working, we can also go ahead and test out the POST request. So I'm going to open up a tool called Postman, and we can create a new request. So I'm going to set up POST. I'll then do http:/localhost port 3000/API/upload. We can then go ahead and set the body of this. It's going to be form data. We'll cover this all a little bit more in a moment in a future video. We're just going to go ahead and make sure our API is actually working. So I'm going to set photo. That key name is important because it aligns with what we've set in multer. I'll then go ahead and choose a file. We can then go ahead and also add a user ID, for example, and I can press send. And we're seeing an issue, no such file or directory. And the reason this is happening is basically inside of server, which we're writing our files to, /images, we need to create that directory before we can write to it. So now if I go back to Postman, press send, we've got the success message we expect. And then if I go to the actual editor, look inside the images, we can see the actual image that I uploaded. So we know that our server is working locally.